So the Bank of Canada has been steadily raising rates. Consumer debt is at an all-time high. I've been wondering about how we got there, but I think one indication is this Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. I guess they've released this report saying that we use our homes as ATMs.
Yes, so Lucy Tedesco, who is the commissioner of the FCAC, put out a very stern warning not so long ago, imploring Canadians to stop using their homes exactly that, to stop taking that equity out. I was even shocked, Larissa, by the numbers that since 2011, HELOCs have increased by 40%. Her concern as well is that 40% of those are only making the payment that they have to. They're not actually paying down on principal. So as we
minimum.
Yeah, so as we know, when you have a traditional mortgage, you're making principal and interest payments. With a HELOC, you can just make the interest payment. So huge concern. Also, StatsCan came out recently with the number that keeps going up too, that for every dollar we bring in of disposable income, we owe $1.71. To put that in perspective, like what does that mean? Sometimes that number just sounds like arbitrary. In the 1980s, that number for every dollar we brought in was 66 cents, right? Double-digit interest
Inflation.
rates. And yeah, exactly. It was a different time. People didn't talk about ticking off the bucket list at 30 or 40. People didn't talk about renovating their kitchens like they do today and all of the types of stuff that we do, because I hear from Canadians across the country that say, or they were, maybe without today's interest rate increase, you know, money's cheap, it's just about free. Why not do these things? And the FCAC, a number of organizations and stats that have been coming out like crazy over the last couple of weeks are saying, look, there is a reckoning. There is a time where too much is too much debt, and a lot of Canadians are feeling that, and a lot of organizations are worried about Canadians.
So just as you're saying, those numbers are staggering. 1 in 5 Canadians have a greater credit card debt than they have in their savings account.
Yes, this is a survey that was just conducted by the Financial Planning Standards Council and Credit Canada. Unfortunately, it didn't dig into, what that disparity was. I mean, it could be $1 in a savings account and huge amounts of debt. We also know that 50% of Canadians are $200 away from not being able to pay their bills. So the number one rule in financial planning is have an emergency account, right? Have a buffer, have a cushion that if something happens, you have that there for you. And Laura says, that gives you confidence. It gives you kind of like a little bit of a financial swagger. And when you don't have that, I write a lot about the psychology of money. And when you don't have that buffer, that financial confidence starts to suffer. And people tie in their self-worth with their net worth. So there are a lot of Canadians feeling super, super stressed. They don't know what to do. And that can even lead into health issues, as Health Canada has acknowledged that financial strain does cause real health issues.
Something else that's also very serious is the fact that I guess 3 in 10 Canadians say that these higher interest rates could propel them into bankruptcy, possibly?
Yeah, and we don't even know specifically what is that. Is it just a little move in an interest rate? Is it a lot? So obviously this new hike is going to affect those in a variable mortgage. It's going to affect those that want to get into the housing market. Now it's going to be more expensive. But there's some interest rates that are just incredibly high regardless, and those are credit card rates. And a lot of people are this time of year wanting to get away, maybe wanting to escape a very depressing month of the year, and they're possibly throwing it on a credit card with double-digit interest rates. So it's really an important time for Canadians to look at their finances, to know if they have a variable rate, if they have a fixed rate. It's really important to also be aware that you can pay your mortgage down, and should you do that? Now, these are not easy questions to answer. You need to crunch some numbers. And this time of year, a lot of people are getting a personal trainer. They're getting nutritionists to get into physical shape. But when it comes to their finances, they're suffering in silence. And the message is that you shouldn't. You should be reaching out to someone like a certified financial planner Or if times are really tough, maybe a nonprofit credit counselor, someone like Credit Canada, that's going to take the shame, the taboo, the stigma away from talking about it, because I'm sure you have a lot of guests on your show that talk about money problems, right? Money problems about taxation, should you go into an RSP or a TFSA? Those are great problems. But what a lot of Canadians now are dealing with are a lack of money problem. And there's a lot of shame in that. Nobody wants to talk about that. So don't think that you have to have it all together and know what to do. Reach out and get some help from someone, but don't do nothing, because it's not going to get worse. It's not going to go away.
It sounds to me as though the future isn't looking really bright. I mean, ultimately, with these interest rates going up and up, the cost of money borrowing money getting more expensive, how does the future look for Canadians?
It could be brighter if they want to pay attention. I think that, Larissa, what needs to happen is if you're watching this and you are $200 away, or you're feeling the stress and you're like, yeah, they're
because that's a shocking number, that $200 away from paying your bills.
It really is. Or if every single month you're even going into more debt to pay your bills, which there was another survey too recently on that, then it's really a time to get out of the denial. And it's kind of like going to that financial buffet and just consuming and consuming. We wouldn't do that with our bodies. We cannot do that with our finances either.